I am Todd Vinson. Welcome to Base Camp Wisdom, a podcast with people who've weathered the storms, traveled the hard miles, and made it to the other side. In this podcast, we're going to explore life lessons, valuable insights, proven tools, and experiences that will help guide you on your own leadership journey. Grab your cup of coffee, sit back and listen to some seasoned Sherpas who've not just weathered the storms, but they've made it to the other side. Welcome to Base Camp Wisdom. Hey, Todd Vinson here with the next episode of Base Camp Wisdom. I'm really excited today to get to talk to I won't call you an old friend, long-time friend, Chris Bennett with Vintage in Malibu, and looking forward to talking about some of his story. And one thing we've got connected over is coffee. So I got to start with a coffee question. What are you drinking right now, and what's your favorite spot out there in the Malibu area?
Great question. What I'm drinking right now, I've got my little mug. This is from a little place in Wyoming. Have you ever been to Tin Sleep? It's a little town.
Not yet, but I love Wyoming.
So right now, I've got a buddy named Noah who has a coffee roastery. He's actually from Indiana, lives out in Southern California now, but it's called Proper Coffee. And so he just hooked me up with a bag of beans. And so I've been taking care of those daily. And then I'm making them on my favorite device, which I think I should just show you this. Do you know the ratio?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So my buddy, Mark, who made this, look at me, this is beautiful. This is my pour over station. So that's my daily routine, buddy. What about you?
What's the origin you're drinking?
Oh man, I should have been more prepared.
Man, putting you on the spot.
We are having a, hold on. This is a Guatemala Cimarron Organic.
Nice. So man, awesome to give him
a
proper shout out.
No, he loves the Lord. He's an amazing guy, young guy. You need to know him.
Here's a nod to my daughter and son-in-law in London. This is a pottery I got from Columbia Flower Market, a little shop there. And
whoa,
I've got a trade subscription that I get to go and do recon of coffee all over. So I've got a bag of Sight Glass right now, a bag of Sight Glass.
Sight Glass. My buddy works for Sight Glass. He's a manager at Sight Glass.
Okay.
Great.
This is La Magdalena, I believe. They said it was cupping notes were toffee and red apples, which I think they were spot on. They said Concord grape, but maybe as it cools off, I'll get some Concord grape, but I'm getting some red apple.
Wow.
Sure.
Dang. Sounds very spring. That's so amazing.
So
now I will say, you asked for the best coffee shop in Malibu. I want to be careful here because there is a blue.
It's like talking about your kids, maybe. If they're people that own them, you've got to be careful.
You got to be careful. Julie works at a coffee shop right now. It's a mile from our house, and she's learning to dial it in. She uses a local roaster called Sunny Days Coffee. The roaster lives across the street from me. But we're still believing for like a high-end quality coffee shop in Malibu. So if anyone's interested, Todd, if you're interested, I have the spot located, everything. Just
picked up. Well, my daughter Avery is over in Costa Mesa, so she's hooked me up with what's the name, Nook Coffee. Over across the street from the camp. We were talking about pizza.
Yep.
Right across the street there. That's been one of my favorite. Jeannie discovered La La Land in Dallas 3 weeks ago, and her life for her has never been the same. I mean, they nail it on the branding, and
they nail it on the branding. It's a little frou-frou for me. For me.
It almost felt like a man card violation when I went in.
That's correct. That is correct.
But I enjoyed their execution, and I bought a bag of the Nirvana, which is Ethiopian and Peru or a Colombia blend, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Wow.
It was outstanding.
I'm surprised you said that. I mean, okay, good to know. We have one close by.
I was too. So yeah, make sure you go with your wife, not by yourself, or your kids, and you'll be fine. Hey, you'll be fine anyway.
That's right.
Well, man, it's good to catch up, and we go clear back to college days for you, and so there's been a lot of mileage between here and there, and I'm looking forward just to getting to talk a little bit about life and some of the life experience we've learned. I was driving up to Oklahoma City yesterday, and my Land Cruiser had a little bit of shimmy in the wheel, and I was looking over at the tire place going up I-35, and I thought, oh man, I need to go get these. And it just made me think about have you seen the tire depth gauges that you put the thing down in, and it'll measure how deep your tread is? And so had a conversation yesterday, and it just made me think about, we should check the tread on our tires. We maintain our vehicles in our homes and all those things, but metaphorically, what's the tread on my soul? And so is it green and hey, we're good to go? Yellow, hey, you need to start thinking about and invest in putting some money back for another set of tires, or it be red, hey, this is getting dangerous. It may not be in the budget, but you need to go to Discount Tire or somewhere and get those replaced before it costs you more than $1,800. It may cost you totaling your vehicle or your life. And a good reminder just for me to have that and just kind of put that in and stick that in my soul. And what's the gauge depth of that right now? So
I got a tire metaphor for you from last week, which was
okay,
I noticed my front right tire was lower than all my other tires, and it's happened before. But I went and found there's a screw just like embedded in the tire, and yet I didn't get it replaced for 5 days. And it was a slow leak to where I was like, I can drive on this. And then it finally got to the point that it was so low that I was like, if I don't repair this today, I'm not gonna be able to drive at all. And I think we'll get into all this, but it's, I think about the tread. I think about that part of us that has the wound that we've just kind of avoided and ignored and just kind of worked around. We've never worked through it. And it may be this slow leak, but over time at some point you can't travel anymore, right?
can't shoot some green goo in your tire. At some point, you've got to
Right.
address the foreign object that's in there that's causing the leak. The phrase at my house that scares my family to death is they'll say something and my response is, "Oh, we should be fine." I don't know.
We'll be
A
fine
little
until, we're not.
a little nervous laugh. They're going to put that on my tombstone. Oh, we should be fine.
It'll be fine. We should be fine.
Should be fine. So, in all seriousness, I just wanted to, I just released a book in this last month, and it's called Mountains of My Mind. And so we've all
Congrats.
got
It's a big deal, man.
it is, and it was a 10-year process to get to the point that I could write about it and share some field notes from my own journey. But one of the things I was thinking about, we've all got a mountain in front of us or that's in our mind. I love the Chris Stapleton song. I mean, who doesn't love Chris Stapleton anyway?
Right.
But when this album came out, I'd listened to all the songs, and one day I'm driving down the road and Mountains of My Mind comes up, which I don't ever recall listening to on that album. I know if I just had it on shuffle and it never got there. But there's one line that goes throughout the song, and he says, "I've traveled all this time, but I still can't climb the mountains of my mind." And I go, "Oh, wow, that's where all of us are at any given point." We keep driving on that tire. Hey, we should we should be okay. It'll be all
Mhm.
right, and until we're not. And so I just wanted to ask you: is there been a time you pick your metaphor here? Either you've been driving on your tire and that gauge and that tread is in the red zone, or has there been a mountain that, like, man, there's just no way that I can climb this?
Yeah, there's a couple that come to mind. And, we planted Antioch Norman in 2009. And I think 2011 or 12, we took kind of our first sabbatical, and we were gone for 3 weeks and went to Breckenridge, one of our favorite places. In the town of Breckenridge, there's that little stream that flows through downtown, and kind of the rhythm I'd get away in the morning, get a few hours by myself. Um, I was reading, I was praying like, God, what do you want me to kind of meditate on? And I felt very clearly he said Psalm 23, and I was kind of like, nah, I think I know Psalm 23. Is there like a passage I've never heard of? And I just found myself day one captivated by a familiar passage. One is just the Lord is my shepherd. And I just remember feeling probably in a lot of ways a false responsibility as like a shepherd, that the Lord is my shepherd, and just that sense of his care for me. But then, he said he makes me lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul, says, for his name's sake. And the previous ones leading up to that, I found that I had this persistent weight in my chest, and I've kind of in an unhealthy way prided myself on, like, I don't get stressed, which is a lie. I just carry it in a different way, very internally, and I can very quickly spin things to find the positive and kind of bypass my own pain and my own grief. I've done that historically throughout my life, and there's times that served me well, but there's times where there's damage been done to my soul and to relationships. And so I just had this persistent weight. I remember I was actually talking to Jimmy Seibert, and I was describing to him, like, man, I'm feeling this weight and it's just heavy. I wake up to it. He said, welcome to senior leadership. And I remember laughing, then going, oh, that doesn't sound encouraging.
No.
And that day that I'm reading that passage in Psalm 23, I felt very clearly the Lord said that weight is that your soul is depleted. And that essence of we can only give away what we have, and that I had done damage to my soul. And I didn't have any vices, some hidden parts of me. There wasn't that. It was just, man, I'm giving, but I'm not abiding, and I'm not living from that place. And so I felt very strongly the Lord just began to say, that's like that weight is your check engine light. And to the analogy, is if you can leave that thing on for a certain amount of time, and maybe if you took it in right away, maybe you need spark plugs changed. But if you ignore, avoid, at some point your engine's gonna blow up, and you have to do a full rehaul. And I
Not
just
your
found
tires
that
problem, it's your transmission and your entire engine. Yeah, absolutely right.
yeah. Yeah, and so that became for me, I just started to pay attention to that, and when I would feel that thing rise up, I would go, "Okay, there's a place I've stepped out of." One, we talk about identity, like, who am I in God? Am I performing for God? Am I working for or from love? And then I just started to, like, pay attention, and then through, counseling and work, just kind of being able to work back to go, "Okay, what's the thing that I let in that is leading to that?" It's not usually about this thing, it's about something much deeper. So that was kind of the first thing that's become just an ongoing, I think, pattern for me to really pay attention to and give attention to.
What's changed once you started addressing that warning light instead of going, oh, we'll be fine? When those things come up and that light does start flashing, how do you catch yourself responding, and what's the impact
Yeah, I
when
think
you
to be honest, I think I've
are
gotten really
proactive?
good. Oh, sorry. I think
Oh,
I've gotten really good it's more about energy management now than time management. And I've realized I used to just say yes to everything and everyone. And I love people. And it's obviously, in a sense, part of my job. But you can certainly see in the life of Jesus that, man, the demands are endless. But, man, the priority of aloneness, oneness with the Father, stealing away. And my kids are older now. I can do that. It's harder when our kids were younger to
right.
get, an hour alone was a big deal. But now, just a daily rhythm of connection. And when I feel my soul, I've gotten really good about going to God first and, like, all right, Lord, what's going on in me? I was driving around yesterday and nothing happened. I was like, why am I heavy?
Mm.
And nothing. And then you're going self-diagnosing, it's like that diagnostic on the car where you're going, okay, I need to figure out. I pay attention. I take it to God, and I invite him into those places. And then when I need to repent, I repent. If I need to go make something right, I try and be more proactive, because my pattern, as I said in the past, has been avoidance for the sake of inner peace, which is not true peace. It's avoidance of conflict. We could talk about that later. So that's kind of been and it's changed. I think I look back at myself when I was 20, and, you always go, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? And I just think I took myself too seriously. I take what I do seriously, but I don't take myself that seriously anymore. I think kind of where I've landed is, man, everybody is so valuable to God. We're not that important. And I think sometimes we think we're a little more important than we are.
Or that we're the only ones that can do this, and cavalry's not
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all up to us. And I think
Yeah.
that was part of my writing that book. Really was writing it to the 26-year-old me that founded Willow Springs Boys Ranch. Okay, you do carry the weight and the ownership and the responsibility of that, but it's not only you that carries that weight. Remember the book or the workbook, Henry Blackaby, Experiencing God.
Yeah, of
You're
course.
not the only. That's reaching way back in the archives there, but you're not the only person that God's sending in for that project. It's God's project to begin with, and it's
That's
not
right. That's right.
you only you is the one that's responsible for it. And those were the things that collapsed me. That I finally, mine was in 2016. I'm glad to hear that you took a sabbatical. I had one assigned to me, so I had gotten so point. I just kept driving with that screw in the tire
Mm.
and kept going until my mind finally caught up with my body. We can get there either way. We can, like the old commercial, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. It takes so much. I guess the ROI I mean, for someone that's in there, maybe in their 30s and 40s and just moving into leadership roles professionally, whether it's nonprofit, church, or business world, I think the part of the country that we grew up in, everything was an expense. Instead of having a counselor, a therapist, a coach, someone that sees your blind spots,
Yeah,
that's really an
that's right.
investment, not an expense. It became an expense when it became a rescue effort for me. The cost got me to some wholeness and some peace and restoration and some recovery, but it cost me about 7x on what it would have been had I done those things starting at 26. Surrounding myself with people that were in that same area or arena or industry that I respect, look up to, and hey, I want to spend time with you. I want to walk where you walk, do what you do. You know, like John Mark Comer on that rhythm of discipleship. I need to make sure I'm around those people, and I need to learn how to work from a place of rest and not like I got to earn it and then rest, because the work never ends. The goalposts keep moving. You think you're there, and oh my gosh, it's the next thing and the next. And we look
I
up
almost
in our
think it's
40s and
hard.
50s, and we've gotten to a place on a trail that we never intended. It's on the mountain, but it doesn't lead to the summit. It really, what it does is led us to destruction. We have to backtrack to get on the right path.
So when you hit that uh, breakdown in 2016, what were the steps you took, and then how long did it take before you were like, oh, I feel like I'm in a healthy place, I can step back into whatever that next piece was for you? How long was that, and what did it look like?
And a lot longer than what I wanted. I tell people all the time that I really wanted a Z pack, and in 4 days I was going to be better. But the 30, 40 years of going hard, 30 years of professional life going hard, it takes some time to undo that. So I had to learn how to rest and not be guilty of or feeling lazy or unemployed or any of the in and un words that run through your head, but learning how to rest and recharge. And so it's not my idea of a pep talk. It didn't take months. It took years. And I having a conversation one night with Jeannie, really in the last 24 months, to be honest. So that puts it at, 2022 from 2016. But it was a gradual process. There were some little steps along the way that I would see daylight, and I would experience emotionally and spiritually the pressure valve releasing and some of that pressure being released. It got released all at once when I hit the floor in 2016. I like Dr. Caroline Leaf's concepts about rewiring your brain, and just neuroplasticity. The brain you have right now is not the one you're stuck with the rest of your life. I mean, there's ways to change your habits, change your patterns. Our tendency is our tendency. But you know what? What are the patterns there? As an adult, you do have some choice on how you respond to your environment. And so learning how to respond different. I think Atomic Habits, James Clear talks about those little bitty micro decisions that we can make over time that make a big difference. And so I think for me, I couldn't look at 5 and 7 year plan. I had to, who is it? The author, maybe Andrew Murray, just talking about moment by moment, little bitty things. And so I had to scale way back. And for me, it took a sabbatical too. It took me 6 months. A lot of that time, Jeannie had my phone. And in the meantime, she deleted about 20 apps and all the notifications. She said, I got anxiety just holding your phone. So it took a long time for me just to go through really just a technology detox. And I didn't have to be on call all the time. I wasn't the National Weather Emergency Center that I had to be accessible for all things. And so it took me a
Mm.
long time learning that I'm not, the flow chart only had me mentally, and it just went up and down. And I was the founder. I was HR. I was legal. I was accounting. I was property
Mm.
management. I was fundraising. I was program. I was, you name it. And it was me all the way down. And so I was living out the movie Multiplicity, the old movie with Michael Keaton, where he kept making copies of, and eventually you mess up and you make a copy of a copy. And that guy is missing some chromosomes and
Wow.
just not fully functioning and in a satirical way. That's where I found myself. And so had to back up and just realize that so much of that was my identity was based on performance and approval and being accepted. And that's not who God says I am. I'm not defined. I did define myself by what I do, but that's not how God defines me. It's based on, and that sounds so cliche, but we live in a culture that's how we measure things, and we're measuring the wrong thing. Right. So time and being surrounded by the right people that are having the influence on you, and to be able to walk through that with you and be a better friend than Job's two sets of friends or his wife. Be someone that, I think for me, my saving grace with my wife, Jeannie, says, yeah, we understand where you're at, but this is not your new normal. You're not gonna stay here. We're not gonna let you stay here because we care about you. And we see what your
Oh,
potential is, what your identity is. Man, I get
wow.
choked up, even, a decade later. That happened this time 10 years ago, April 6, 2016.
Wow.
And if you'd have
Wow.
told me that, I'd have been sitting here with you a decade later talking about a book that kind of chronicles a better way to take that journey, I would have laughed at you and just said, you're silly, dark place. But man, there is hope on the other side, whether your emotions are matching up with that right now or not.
Yeah, it's like that Psalm 23 where it says, he makes us lie down. It's like we can either choose to learn to lie down in green pastures, or he makes us. And I think I think that's probably the change. Is like now I'm gonna be like, now I'm gonna go. It's like your kid when they're tiny. They don't ever want to take a nap, but as a parent, like, no, you need to go lay down. Like you're not in a good place. You need a nap. And I think just getting to that place where we can, health is when we can self-identify and take those steps without him having to make us.
Him making us lie down is also not a cone of shame like our dog gets when they go to the vet. But yet, I mean, that's what I felt like, and felt like everyone could see the cone on me when I was operating in a different role or a different industry at a different pace. And that's just
Your
not.
next book should be a book of metaphors, bro. You're crushing the metaphors today. Crushing them.
Metaphor is just a nicer way of saying dad jokes, probably. So
That's true.
they're funny until you become a parent, then all of a sudden they're dad jokes. So I don't
Yeah.
know how that happens. So, well, man, with the phase of life that you're in now, you've got one in college playing ball down at Baylor. You've got uh, a son that's an artist. It sounds like all of your kids are incredibly artistic and talented. I know that all comes from Julie. So
Yeah. We're all thinking it. Just say it.
thank goodness they look like their mom.
I know. I say that all the time. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lord.
But what's your,
Yeah.
I guess one, we talked about some challenges, but what are some things that you're excited about right now that you're
Maybe if I
working
could
on?
just, yeah, maybe I could, for those that don't know, we left, the church we had planted and pastored for nearly a decade and moved to LA in 2018. And when we talk about mountains, I think for us, it's a longer story how we were led by the Lord, and it was in an undeniable way. But I think, faith can be really naive because God will give us the next step, and he rarely gives us the next steps after that. And I think a lot of times he's seeing if we're willing to say yes before we know how or what's next. And so we made that choice to move to LA, and that was the biggest mountain we've ever climbed, was leaving home, leaving the familiar, kind of Abraham stuff, and moving to a new land without really any relationship. We knew a couple people. We didn't have income. We had no backup plan. We had no home. We landed, literally, I remember I got a picture landed with Bo and Nate, my two oldest kids, and they were, what were they, 14 and 12, and we're at LAX, and August 19th, 2018. I don't know where I'm sleeping that night. Julie's packing up our house in Oklahoma and
I
kind of getting
remember
it
those
ready
days.
because oh my gosh. And that led us on a journey where, the whole fam moved out. A few weeks later, we moved in with a family, and um, we were going to stay with this family for 2 weeks while until our house closed in Oklahoma. Contract fell through and ended up being like 2 weeks with this family turned into 9 weeks. And we were kind of that fear of overstaying our welcome. So we picked a move out date and we said, hey, November 9, we're going to move out. And it's a proverb about this. And yeah, that was exactly. And so it was November 1 that, November 9th, we decided to move out. We don't know where we're going to live and we have no resources to get a home. And then Jules got diagnosed with cancer November 1. And I remember we had one of those moments where you have this undeniable sense of call from God, and then you have everything in the natural feeling very opposed to that thing we felt called to. And I remember being in the car with her and just in tears. And I said, babe, do we go back to Oklahoma? We have a home. Your parents are there. Our community's there. And, Jules is she's a very courageous human. And I would just say, instead of courage, I would say she has big faith. And she just said, babe, God called us to LA. And if I had found out I had cancer in Oklahoma, we never would have moved. And she had tried to get in to see the doctor before we moved and couldn't get in. And so we made that decision to stay. And that was like a burn the ship moment. And she started chemo the next week. We moved 20 times over those next 6 months all over LA County with our 4 kids in private school with no income. And it was the Everest, right? It was this feels impossible. This feels insane. And every time I would hit an impasse where I think sometimes we think faith is not faith is exciting oftentimes on the other side. It's unnerving when you're in it. And I remember right before all this started to come apart with cancer and not having a home, a buddy of mine, he's become a friend now. I barely knew him at the time. He texted me out of the blue. He goes, hey, I tracked your number down. This guy in Norman. And he said, hey, God woke me up at 4 a.m. to pray for you and your family. And I felt like he gave me a word that it's your faith that led you to LA, but it's your trust that's going to keep you there. And I remember reading that going, oh, that's cute. And
Cute.
put it
Yeah.
in the
Thank
notes
you.
of my phone. And then when all this happened, I realized, oh, okay, like we had faith, but trust is about who do I believe God is? Like, do I trust his character? Do I trust his nature? And it's easy to say we trust him until those things get tested. It could be finances, it could be health, whatever those things are, even calling. And that led us on this deep journey of learning to trust him. And God would show me things in my heart. Like we're preaching to Joshua at our church right now. And if you read, Deuteronomy chapter 8, where the Lord's like, or Deuteronomy 1 says it was, meant to be an 11-day journey. It ended up being 40 years. But then Deuteronomy 8 says, the Lord says, remember how I led you for 40 years in the wilderness to humble you and to test you to see what was in your heart and whether or not you would obey. And my goodness, like I've taken the 40-year journey. I think there's opportunities to take the 11-day journey, but all that testing is revealing, and it's not punishment, it's refining, and it's preparation, it's not punishment. So that was kind of what those first 6 months was: the cancer, the 20 moves. And then now to look to, Jules, she was in remission for a year, and then her cancer came back right when COVID hit, and she went through another year and a half of treatment, and she just hit her 5-year cancer-free mark last week,
Saw that.
which
It's
is
amazing.
a major milestone. So to your question, I'm just kind of the way we wrote a book, called Fighting for Family. And in that we talked about climbing the mountain, and we talked about, the summit. And a lot of people are very content. You get to like the Everest thing, you get to base camp, and that base camp is not where you're meant to stay. It's meant to be where you're meant to acclimate, to keep going. And I can look back and realize, man, God was really gracious where, I think a lot of people, and I don't mean this in a judgmental way, because the testing or the disappointment, they level off and they go, no, I'm just like content to stay here, and that's fine. And you can love God and you can live there. But if your goal is like the summit, like God, I want to fulfill everything you've called me to do, you stay to heal, to recover, and to acclimate, to keep going. And so I think now on the other side of this, being at the church we've been at now, pastoring for 4 years, Julie being healthy, and then watching each of my kids doing the things God made them to do, I'm like, wow, Lord, I'm so thankful that we didn't go back, and I'm so thankful that we didn't give up, and we're getting to experience the fruit of that in a lot of ways.
That's good. And as I hear you share that story, ours were kind of paralleling at the same time. But what I finally realized is that a climber can't shepherd themselves up a mountain any more than a sheep can shepherd itself. And so who has been in your life that's helped you? Sometimes it's not climbing different. It's just being able to climb at all. And so someone that is assessing you, sees your blind spots, helps you along. They're not carrying you up the mountain, but they're helping you climb the way you were
Good
designed.
question. I mean, to be
And maybe it's
honest,
a
I
group of
think
people, and maybe it's not just one.
that's what I was
Maybe
going to
it's
say. And I think it's changed at different times, because I think when we got to LA, it was when I say lonely, I mean, I had my family, and we were already close. We got closer, but it was really freaking hard. And I kind of felt like, and I don't mean this, it was like the Abraham thing. It's like, we're going out not knowing where we're going. I don't know who to look to who's done what we're doing. There's people that have. It's not heroic. I'm just saying, I think we were on a journey of learning to really walk with the Holy Spirit, to hear his voice. Julie had a small group of these women, kind of her age, these 14 ladies that she had met a year earlier in LA, and they were all now living in LA, and she met with them every Thursday. And if she was answering the question, she would say these women carried her, and they, had left their home and they had moved to LA and they had been there longer. And so they were an unbelievable voice of encouragement and strength for her. Mm. And then I think for me, there were a couple different people that God brought into my life, a friend named Tim and another guy named Ben, who were in LA. And they were the ones that when I felt like I've lost my ever loving mind, they would remind me what was true. My best friend, Bo, who's been my best friend for 30 years almost, a daily voice of truth, and just the person I could call and go, man, am I missing it? Like, tell me if I am. Like, if I'm totally like in rebellion and this is a fantasy I'm chasing. And then I think that's changed over time. And I think what the coolest part is now, Todd, and I'm sure it's how you feel. So you wrote this book where you're going, you have a different vantage point. You haven't arrived anywhere. You're still climbing, but you can look back and go, okay, like we've come a long way in God. Like we've kept going. We've paid the price. We've got some scars, but now we're helping the people. You're getting to share with people. It's what your book's doing. It's what this podcast is doing. And I've found being in LA where, our church has grown, tripled in the last, 9 months. And it's people from all over LA County that drive to Malibu. A lot of them are young people. And now what's really fun is we get to share our story as a place of kind of to be uh, like a signpost of, hey, it doesn't mean it has to look like our journey, but what I'm telling you is if God's called you here, he will make a way for you. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and it will be contested. And the whole essence of promised land, there's going to be testing is part of it. And now we get to say God will provide. We have so many housing miracles. We have so many financial miracles. We have health miracles. We have family miracles. And so we can speak from a place of not just knowing the right thing, but like we've seen it. We have testimony, we have memorial stones in our life that we can point back to. And I can now look back and go, okay, I don't believe that God caused Julie to have cancer. I'm seeing where he allowed this to come in to build something in her, but now she's been able to help so many women who have been there. I look at all the moves and I go, wow, in a place like LA where it's so hard to find housing and it's so expensive, we have testimonies of 20 plus moves and never going without, and sometimes it would come the day of, but it's that whole thing of like, in due season you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. And I remember in the cancer journey hearing somebody say, the only thing harder than waiting on God is wishing that you had. And we had so many moments where we were about to settle and compromise on something, and then God would tell us, I want you to wait. And I mean, I have so many crazy housing stories where we would just wanted to, like, I just need to get my family in something. I don't even care anymore. And he'd say, I want you to wait. And we would wait. And then right on the other side of that was the miracle. But I think a lot of times we project things on God and we blame him when it doesn't happen the way we thought. And I think so much of the faith journey is walking and waiting. It's walking and waiting. And it's ultimately about trust.
It's the hard miles. It's going through the storms that aren't any fun, but that ends up being your credibility when you talk to other people because you have walked through it. You're not just giving platitudes. I've walked through this. I know what it's like to be unemployed, feeling homeless, feeling like, what in the world am I doing out here? A land of millions of people, and you feel completely isolated and alone.
Right.
Ever since my crash, I mean, there's been 2 verses that I recite, and I go to bed reciting them. Even now, I wake up thinking about them in the morning. Reference 1, Psalms 23, where the Lord is my shepherd. I have all that I need, not all that I want. You can't always get what you want, as the deep theologian once said.
You can't always get what you want.
What you want.
Is that Jagger? Is that Mick Jagger?
It is Jagger. But what I did find out is that you couple that with Philippians 4:6-9. God already knows what our needs are. If I will acknowledge those, and instead of you starting out complaining because all I have to eat is manna and quail. If I thank him for what I do have and then acknowledge my need and think about what's true, honorable, right, and pure. And a lot of those are questions that I have to go back, and it gets my focus right on my identity. And then, man, that I can't be anxious and grateful at the same time. It's like sneezing with your eyes open. You can do one or the other. Well, Other question I had for you is, we talk about going to the summit and the summit looks cool and you think that someone's there with a selfie stick and snaps their picture, but really it's the Sherpa more times than not that took the picture of the guy. And it's not his first rodeo. He's climbed it, but he helped you get there. He's climbed it probably dozens of times, but it's your first experience. And so as we've seen the summit and we've tasted and experienced it, and we go back down, really the call is to grab 2 or 3 other people in our life that are in our circle of influence and show them a better way to climb. And so as you've gotten to the summit, I mean, what's it like in the second season? I think we do have we do have a perspective that there's no way we could have had in our 20s, 30s, and 40s. And so I think it took me a long time finally getting to where I am now that, my daughter, Maddie, and Luke just had a baby. I can't expect this
Wow.
4-month-old to be making 30-year-old decisions right now. It's just it's not realistic. But yet we put those expectations on ourselves sometimes. And so I think getting to the point, you kind of alluded to this earlier, once that we do have a little healthier perspective and we don't dominate ourselves, it's a lot easier. I think it's easier for us to extend grace to someone else than it is to ourselves. How have you been able to do that, just walking through this, or have you been more graceful with yourself being on the other side of this and having some of those experiences?
For sure. I think I've become more enamored with just the whole, not idea, but the desire to finish well. I think pain and loss will drive the selfish ambition out of you. I think I always had kind of a mix, like I want to do something great for God and be famous for it.
Yeah.
And it's so gross. And so I think my ambition is less than it's ever been to like build a big thing, to do a big thing. Like I'm not saying it's not there. I for sure still have that stuff in me, but less than I've ever. And then now it's like, I remember when I was 24 and everything hit the fan and my marriage was falling apart, ministry falling apart, and that whole Robert Clinton study about the making of a leader and his whole essence of, about 20% of Christian leaders finish well. I've seen that to be true. I mean, I look at how many people do we know that were running a good race and blew up their lives and never recovered. And there's collateral damage for that in their own lives, their own families, and their ministries. But I think now I'm looking at my life going, okay, Lord, I'm 47 and I don't know how much time I have, but you redefine what success is. You redefine what's at the top of the summit, and I think for me now it's about, man, I want to have a thriving relationship with Jesus. I want to have a life where nothing is hidden, that there's nothing that's, off limits and in the dark. I want to have a marriage that's thriving, and I want to have kids that want to be around me when they don't have to be. And I think those I look at my life, I'm like, oh, I'm seeing a path for that to happen, and I'm seeing the fruit of that. And so I think now that the idea of being a Sherpa, it's my kids first, where I'm, got Nate with football, and I'm realizing, oh man, like it doesn't matter he's in a different environment, but my goodness, the principles are the same God, and Bo's living on his own in LA as an artist, and literally this week going, Dad, I don't know how I'm paying rent next month. And you're like, all right, buddy, like literally, I mean, I'm not just saying we're going, let's remember what God did for our family. And did we ever go without? And there's some things here that you're getting to learn now as a 22-year-old, and praise God, you're getting to learn them now. And so that's the joy, is now taking the next generation up the mountain. And I don't think it's about, hey, I should say that. I remember right before Nate left for college, I said, hey, Naters, you're going to have a
Does
lot
he
of
still like you
opportunity.
calling you Naders? Does he
Yeah.
still like you calling him
And
Naders?
he lets me call him Naters.
I
And I
saw him
still call
Easter and I wanted to
Bo
call him
Bear.
Nader, but I didn't.
Yeah, you can totally call him Naters.
Okay.
And I let my dog out. Yeah, so I just remember telling him, I said, hey, Nate, like in life, you can learn through wisdom or you can learn through regret. And I said, wisdom is the ways God's laid out. It's the ways we've taught you. And they lead to life and they lead to fruit and they lead to blessing. I said, or you can learn through regret. And most people, unfortunately, learn through regret. And I think that's the whole essence of discipleship and mentorship, is we're just basically going, look, there's no prescription here, but there are ways. There are ways about God. There are ways to walk in that, Joshua 1. It's like, if you obey my commandments fully, if you don't veer to the left, to the right, if you follow my voice, you will be prosperous and you'll be successful. Doesn't mean you won't have adversity, doesn't mean you won't have struggles. But I just think, man, as much as we can save people unnecessary pain and avoid some of the things that we would have done, I think that's the joy, is trying to, it's not a shortcut, it's just a better way, you know?
Well, I think you hit on that's the nugget here is that, you know what, our goal is we want you to learn, and there's a better way to learn. And there's a better healthy route to the summit, that you come back down and you get to take someone else up instead of someone bringing you down in a body bag. I think that was the thing that Jeremy Kubicek shared with me. Todd, a Sherpa never carries anybody up the mountain, but man, you've got a waiting list of people that would love to get in your pack and let you carry them. So you think, he goes, the reality is no one wants you to carry them. But there's only two times that you see a Sherpa carrying someone. It's either back down to a lower camp or base camp to get healthy and recover, or it's a recovery effort and they're bring you back, send you back to your family. So that's not the, anytime I see any of those scenes on my Everest Instagram feed, I obviously have never climbed Everest. I have made Elbert in Colorado, 14,000 feet there. It's not even the same. It's 3,000 feet below base camp at Everest. But to see that image, we know metaphorically that people have not finished strong, to your point earlier. So, I mean, I think that for guys in our phase of life, that's really the higher calling for all of us, is how do we climb healthy and also help other people climb healthy so they can finish strong.
It's that Hebrews 11. It says, it goes through all the heroes of the faith. And then it said, and some died in faith, never getting to where they thought they were going to get on this side of heaven, but they died in faith. And that's what I want to do. Whether I ever get to that summit, that we die in faith.
And know who we belong to and who we are, and identity is whom we belong to, not what we do. And if someone asked me the day about writing my own obituary, and I'm going, oh, wow. So it's not what I think about me, what my credentials or accolades or achievements are. It's, what, can't remember, it was Ken Geyer maybe said, when I die, I want people who know me the best to respect me the most. And that I'd add to that they see Christ, they don't see Todd. I joke that God and Todd rhyme, and that gets me in a whole lot of trouble. I hope that people see God in me and not Todd in me. Hoping you're modeling for people what it means to live godly and not Toddly. Toddly will just get you a dad joke.
There it is.
Toddly will get you. We should be fine.
Buddy. Your book should be called
You're
Toddly Advice.
Yeah. You don't want Toddly advice. So, well, man, I know you got to dip and hop on another call here, but if people are wanting to get connected with you or your church, is there a good way for them to do that, or where you would direct people there?
Yeah, just go to my MySpace account. It's
your MySpace. Okay.
Is that even a thing? No, I mean, our
hey,
church
mine's
is
still
Vintage
active.
Church.
So.
No, I know. That's how we met.
That's how we met.
Our church is Vintage Church Malibu. They can follow along on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd love their prayers. God's doing some really spectacular. I'm marveling with what I'm seeing God do in LA. It's the hunger, the openness. And I think what we're, a place like Malibu, that's a very particular place where you have people that have tasted everything the world has to offer. And then they're going, there has to be more. It creates an amazing opportunity to present Jesus, because he is the longing. And I've been in contexts where people were like, oh, I want to try the world to see, and then they come to Jesus. I think we're in a place where it's like we're around people all the time that have at the highest level money, fame, power, and yet are searching. And it's such an amazing opportunity to present, the goodness of the Lord, to taste and see in a way that the water that they will never thirst again. And we're seeing that happen. We're baptizing 40 people this Sunday in service, which is incredible. So yeah, pray for us. It's fun.
Well, and if we let people rub shoulders with us long enough, they can taste and see, okay, you did respond different and all these things. And so I want to know more about that. Well, man, that's awesome. I hope next time we're out seeing Avery and SoCal, we can connect and have a cup of coffee and have this conversation face to face.
Be an honor. I love you. I respect you so much. And
love you too, brother. I appreciate your authenticity and just, being real, and hopefully this will be an encouragement to folks that are going through it, and will be, just help them remember that they're not alone. There's folks that have been through that, and we'll walk with them on that journey if they will allow them to. Hey, we'll talk to you next time.
Okay, brother.
Hey, thanks for listening to another episode of Base Camp Wisdom, where you hear stories from people who've done the hard miles and made it to the other side. If you want more tools and insights for your own personal leadership journey, head over to overlanderconsulting.com. I'm also excited to announce my new book on Amazon. It's called Mountains of My Mind, and it's a field guide for personal clarity, resilience, and sustainable rhythms. So keep on climbing, but remember, you weren't created to climb alone.